This is Reimagining the Contact Center. I'm Marc Bernstein, and today I'm interviewing Sam Wilson, CEO at 8x8. This conversation touched on the biggest topics in AI and contact center today. Where are CCaaS and UCaaS going? How is AI going to affect them? What is the future of human agents and virtual agents? How are tech companies going to differentiate when everybody can build almost anything at a faster pace than we've ever been able to build it? How are companies going to stand out? We tackle all these questions and more. Truly love the conversation. Everybody, this is Sam Wilson, CEO at 8x8. Sam, hey, great to see you.
Great to meet you, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining. I'm really excited for today's episode, and I thought I'd just go right at a fastball to start. The impact of AI on CCaaS. I did a survey on LinkedIn a few weeks ago, and I said, what impact will AI have on CCaaS? Will CCaaS be more important, less important, about the same? And 52% of people said CCaaS is going to get more important as AI gets better and better, and as it becomes more widespread. 29% said less important, and 19% said about the same. What is your take?
Okay, I'm going to give you maybe a slightly different take, so forgive me. I'm going to first start at first principles, right? So first principles to me are Salesforce was founded in 1999 before it was Siebel Systems, but Silicon Valley, late 90s to 2020, all about new customer acquisition. Starting in 2020, 2021, Silicon Valley started switching gears, and this is in response to corporate America. I believe the venture capital community, great startups like yours and others, are a reaction to the marketplace. And what the marketplace first started with was, oh my goodness, we spend all this money acquiring customers through marketing automation systems and CRM systems and payment systems and global commerce systems, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then we're bleeding them out the bottom. Where 1 in 3 will leave a brand they love, PricewaterhouseCoopers survey, a brand they love after one bad customer support experience. And so first and foremost, CCaaS is going to become more important because corporate America wants to get the reward of landing landing a new logo. And 60-70% of all customer interaction is through the contact center. But the other 30-40% is through sales and billing department and whatever the case may be, other parts of it. But the contact center remains a key way that businesses do support and deal with their customers. And as long as companies globally want the reward of getting that customer acquired, they're going to implement more in CCaaS. Now, to your point, CCaaS and the LinkedIn survey, CCaaS as a concept is going to change radically. And it's changed radically over the last 20 years. 20 years ago, we called them call centers, right? And it was, epitomized in movies with row upon row with person with a headset on, answering the phone. Today, it's omni-channel and fragmented and dozens of different ways, et cetera. And then you layer in AI, which adds a whole nother set of capabilities to take this to the next level. So long answer, but my answer is the contact center is going to become more important because it's still the primary way that we deal with our customers. And as long as we care about retaining our customers, it's going to matter. It's going to matter great. The tone, tenor, and context of what a contact center is, that's going to change radically in the future.
Yeah. So then how do you think that tone, tenor, and context is going to change? How does the communication landscape get, different and richer and like weirder, more complex?
Yeah,
How is it going to change?
this is the whole, you're asking me to stick my neck out and make predictions. Okay, so first, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see AI come in and take the run-of-the-mill question. And I'm going to change the word AI a little bit to self-service. You're going to see an increase in using artificial intelligence to allow self-service. Hey, I need to get a hold of my vendor and get a simple answer to a simple question. And I want to do that at 2 o'clock in the morning because I'm actually in London and it's 10 o'clock in the morning there. Bam, AI is going to handle that for me, etc. But what you are going to see more and more is your contact center, and this is a dream of mine. We stop calling them agents and we start calling them specialists. We spend a lot of money for a sales rep because they have a specialized skill set and a specialized set of capabilities. Yet a contact center agent, the 20-year trend has been to lower costs, not increase costs. I think that's going to change. I think you're going to see a radical increase over the next 5 and 10 years with an increase in the compensation of a contact center agent because their job is going to get more specialized, more difficult. All of our initial research so far at 8 by 8 has been that we're not seeing a decline in the number of agents. We're actually seeing an increase in the time they're spending dealing with a case, whether it's a digital case or a voice case. They're actually, so what they're doing is they're taking the time to figure out your actual problem and solve it versus I got to get off the phone in 6 minutes or less kind of thing and all that other stuff. And so customer satisfaction is increasing, and an increase in customer satisfaction should lead to an increase in customer retention. And I don't mean customer retention in the SaaS recurring revenue way. I mean the Nordstrom's reorder way. Nordstrom's had a great return policy because it learned if you had a great return policy, people spent more with you over time. Everybody's obsessing about the LTV, the long-term value of a customer. You can't do that and not talk about your contact center at the same time.
Yeah. I think you're so right that agents are going to become more specialists. I remember reading a couple years ago, Peter Drucker's The Effective Executive, and he's talking about the importance of knowledge work and how we're going to see more and more knowledge work. And I think that the contact center agent of today and in the future is becoming less of an order taker or a rote, intake a question from the customer and spit out an answer, and more of a professional, more of a specialist. And I think that we're going to see that continue, especially as AI handles all the tier one stuff with self-service. But the hope is that actually creates like much more interesting, complex, and well compensated jobs for folks working in the contact center.
100%. So I pulled some data a couple months ago. It was the 2023 Bureau of Labor and Statistics data on the hourly employees in the United States and contact center employees in the United States. The average hourly employee in the United States made $33 an hour, 2023 data. The average contact center agent made $18.31 an hour. So I'm not comparing them against all salaried and whatever, just hourly employees. We're paying them 40% less than the average hourly employee. I see a trend where that goes up. And what's interesting is about all this AI stuff for the agent is no plumber complains about using their wrench and their sockets and their tools. When you're a professional, you want tools, you want co-pilots, you want, agent assist is fantastic. Oh my God, you can look things up faster. Coaching helps me because I can do a better job at solving customer problems, those kinds of things. These are tools. If you're a real professional, it becomes a lot less about compliance and a lot more about, making your agents true skilled specialists. I think that's the trend of where we're going. And that's going to be a fun adventure because the whole notion, Wall Street, interestingly enough, survey on Wall Street said AI, the number one most affected industry is contact centers. And so it took all the contact center stocks down, us included. All our stocks are down significantly because AI is going to completely disrupt us and half the seats are going to go away. And what's interesting about that is it doesn't take into account that we're all selling the AI solutions to the remaining half, number one. And number two is we're all selling the AI solutions that allow the self-service to go forward. And so I think it's this incredibly short-term focused thing about how this industry is going to change. But in the end, what you're going to see is a reduction in the amount of labor because technology is going to replace it, and an increase in the spending and the tools and capabilities that supports the remaining labor. It's just going to happen.
Totally. And I think like it's a really important point you mentioned about how like the tech companies and the contact center companies are the ones who are also selling the AI agents, the voice agents, the chat agents. They're the ones selling that. And I actually did like a little bit of like a LinkedIn rant a few months ago, and I was poking fun at the All In podcast. And they're talking about how contact center is going to be decimated and it's all going to go away. And I was like, who do you think is doing the quote unquote decimating? Like we are building innovative tools that are allowing customers to both self-service and get exceptional experiences when they talk to a human. It's not some like, outside tech daddy that's coming in and dropping these tools and disrupting the industry.
Absolutely. That is so, I mean, I just want to say hallelujah, like, and raise my arms, right? That is so spot on. And we know the limits of AI anyway. They're not going to be able to solve the super complex problems. They're not going to be able to solve every problem. And if you look at contact centers, the whole notion, I mean, look, I would just ask any CEO, really honest to God, any CEO, let's take your gold level people at United Airlines. You're going to have your gold level people at United Airlines talk to a bot. Wait till that bot makes a mistake. Wait till that bot hallucinates. Wait till that bot puts them on the wrong flight by accident. You're going to have hell to pay from your most important customers. Look at the contact centers the last 20 years. Massive fragmentation of the number of channels. I mean, it's not good enough anymore to do voice. It's voice, WhatsApp, SMS, Twitter, or X, whatever we call it today, Blue Sky. I mean, Facebook, there's social listening, etc. You have to be in all these channels. So talk about context switching across the situation that the human being, that an agent may not be able to do, or an AI may not be able to do. Number two is you need to take care of your best customers. And number three, the research is still there. If you're over the age of 45, you generally want a voice communications. And if you're under the age of 45, you generally want a digital communication. This is why there's so much money going into voice bots right now. Somewhere along the way in the last year, everybody figured out that half the population, including the ones with the most amount of money, are all in the voice only land or voice preference land. And so I think we're still at the very early stages of seeing this happen. And there's no ability, I think, for a company to say, I mean, my answer would be great. Then we should say all sales is going to go away because sales is going to be handled by a robot too. I mean, it's not going to work that way. We still have room for the human in the loop. And
Right.
it's and the biggest part though is it's going to change. I'm just going to riff for a second. The biggest part is it's going to change though. The human's going to be less about drafting the initial response, and I'm not talking about like writing, and it's going to be more about validating that makes sense. It didn't hallucinate. I was using ChatGPT the other day, and I asked it a question, and it got it 100% wrong because the
Hmm.
prompt wasn't quite right. And I had to go, no, stop, time out. You got something in your memory, clean out your memory. Here's the new prompt. Here's what I need. It's like, oh, okay, here's your answer. That stuff's going to exist for the next 10 years. Because I would never take one of my top 50 customers or 500 customers or 5,000 customers and say, oh, you just talked to a bot and, no human in the loop. Let's go.
It is one of the really interesting things about when AI makes mistakes is the mistakes that it makes are different than the mistakes humans make. So humans look at those mistakes and go, that's really stupid. Like it feels stupid to us. Like, last week I was asking Chat GPT, how many days ago was September 11th, 2001? How many days have passed since then? And it gives me a number. And then I ask another day. I was like, oh, August, 2001. How many days was that? And the number of days it returned for August was less than the number of days it returned for September 11th. So I asked the same question. I was like, oh, can you give me the answer again? And it gave me the same answer. And then I challenged it and I said, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense because August is more in the past. So it should be a higher number of days. And it goes, you're right. Here's the right answer. But it took that interaction to get the right answer out of it. And I do think that we are on a very, very, very fast pace for ameliorating those sort of issues, but they do still happen.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, a human has a level of confidence in its answer, right? So when I was on Wall Street many 2 decades ago, we tried to use a lot of AI, machine learning, artificial intelligence, fuzzy logic, et cetera, to do portfolio management, stock picking, those kinds of things. But where it was the worst was not picking the equity. Where it really struggled was picking the size of the position because it couldn't get its confidence. When you asked that question about August versus September, it gave you an answer that it was certain was correct. It was emphatic that it was correct because when you ask it again, it didn't go, wow, you're asking me the question again? Let me think about this. It
Yeah.
was, no, I'm 100% certain. A human being would be like, whoa, wait a minute. Let me take a step back and think about this for a second. And there's what makes agent assist, to switch gears, what makes agent assist amazing is agent assist gets you faster to the knowledge, but it's not empathetic. It doesn't understand the use case very well. It doesn't understand. It's pattern matching. It's mimicking, and it's awesome. I can't type as fast as agent assist can think, but I can think faster than agent assist can. And I think that's the power. And what's most interesting about agent assist, I'm using this as a paraphrase, an example of all AI. What's most interesting about Agent Assist is that our studies indicate that it doesn't radically improve the productivity of a very experienced agent. What it radically improves is the training time of a new agent. It gets them up the curve faster. It's not about replacing the agent. It's about, hey, the average contact center has 40% attrition, and so let's get those inexperienced agents better, quicker, faster to the same level of competency of an experienced agent. It's not like let's get rid of the agent. That's not going to work.
We've seen the same pattern too. We build a Balta builds a version of Agent Assist we call real-time guidance, and the ramp time impacts are consistent and profound. Like I was
Yes,
literally reading to our investors, we have a Slack channel that gives us customer wins, and it said, what's the most recent customer win? And someone was saying that they turned their ramp time from 3 months to 1 month using our real-time guidance. So we've absolutely seen that impact. And we also have seen that it is harder to serve someone who knows more, right? Just like if you're closer to the ceiling, to the top level of performance, then you're trying to get the inches rather than get the yards. So the way that we've tried to think about that problem is, what is something that an AI or machine could do that a human could never possibly do? Like, what is something that just like would be unreasonable for you to memorize? Like, we have a customer in the automotive space who is doing automotive insurance policies, and someone the other day typed in, is a 1974 Corvette, covered under this particular plan? There's no possible way to memorize that, but AI can go and search and give you the answer right away. So we're trying to like amplify the value for the most senior agents by saying, where are the places that a human brain just doesn't work that way? Can we have an AI brain augment, assist that person instead?
absolutely. And I'll give you the example we always discuss internally. So Joel Neeb is my chief of AI transformation, whatever. I gave him a chief of business operations and transformation or something. I gave him a really big title, but he's a former F-15 fighter pilot.
Hmm.
And what's interesting is in the F-15, and I may get this wrong, so Joel, don't yell at me. But the F-15, there's something like 300 gauges, and you have to get trained on looking at what, given the situation or whatever. But in the F-35, there's only like 18 gauges or 15 gauges. What they realized is, as a human being, you just get information overload, and you can't track all that and memorize all that and whatever. And so where technology comes in is figuring out what information you need when to articulate the situation. But
Yep.
there's still a pilot inside the F-15 or the F-35, right? There's still someone in the loop who needs to take that information and synthesize it into the really complex situation that's the real world. And I think when you're going to lose a customer over 3 bad customer support experiences, you're not. I mean, there's 2 things that I think the real world doesn't understand about contact centers. Number one is if you run a contact center, your number one thought every day is labor. 70% of your spending is labor based on our focus groups. And you have 40% attrition. So you're constantly have people coming in and out and skilled. Do they show up for work and what's happening? And number two is that you need to sort of realize that everything that's happening is about retaining the customer. It's about making sure that customer is treated wonderfully. And the level of expectation by a customer increases the more with AI, et cetera, et cetera. Even my wife or my son gets upset when a bank closes at 5 o'clock and they can't get an answer at 7 o'clock at night, right? The level of, so if you lose a customer after 3 bad customer support experiences, a little fast math, right? You have to be right like 97% of the time. Otherwise, within a very short amount of time, you're gonna start bleeding out customers. AI isn't at 97% accuracy. And I'm not sure it ever will be nor should be. I think it's better suited to get all the noise out of the system, because what was lost in the past was the difficult problems for the agents, the contact centers to deal with. And now they have the space and time to deal with that. And that's going to make them specialists. We'll pay them more, because the more complex customer, the better customer, the customer that spends more money with us will absolutely get the service that they believe they deserve. And we believe they deserve.
In the AI world, there's almost like an infinite number of things you can build because, AI as a technology is built to be highly flexible. And, it's basically a general purpose technology, and you can use it to write a school report. You can use it to, brainstorm 100 different ideas for a painting you want to make, or you can brainstorm. I have been planting a garden outside, and I've been walking around my garden with my camera, taking pictures of the plant and saying, what does this plant need? What does this plant need? And then, Chat GPT tells me, this one, might need more acidity. This one needs more sun. It's incredible. So there's so much flexibility and so many different directions you can take it, that one of the big challenges that anybody in technology and contact center technology is thinking about now is, how do you prioritize? How do you decide which AI bets you want to make, which products you want to invest in, what you want to build yourself versus what you might want to partner with, or solutions you might want to buy. So how do you think about where 8x8 is prioritizing your AI investments?
That is such an insightful question, right? Because what we do is we first start with our ideal customer. And for us, it's 250 employees to 20,000 employees, generally doesn't have developers, and that contact center person. So the contact center person, 70% of their money is spent on labor, 15% spent on, or 20% spent on tools, the stuff we sell, and the other 10% spent on, facilities and lunches and everything else thrown in, right? So the way we think about it is that we are the conduit for taking stuff out of the lab and getting it in actual production. And so it's about solving specific use cases, in packaging it together and solving a specific use case for a specific customer. I think that's 8x8's value add.
Hmm.
We are not going to compete with OpenAI or Microsoft or the hyperscalers in their area, but they, on the other hand, build such massively general solutions that they can't turn around and make it work for a specific industry or a specific vertical or a specific use case. And the person on the side of the table, I mean, I spend a lot of time on the road. I have a lot of conversations with contact center leaders, et cetera. And they ask that question, like, where should I start? And I'm like, where you should start is simple use cases that you can put into production, that allow you to learn the technology and learn the capabilities and begin to morph them for what your specific business needs are. And that is such an area. And I'm going to say something negative about technology companies, and I say this knowing that I am a leader of a technology company, right? But when I drive up and down 101, and for your listeners, not in the Bay Area, that's between San Jose and San Francisco, right? There's all these billboards from tech companies. And they drive me nuts because each one of them talks about what the tech company does. We do DevOps, we do AI, we do storage, we do whatever. But almost none of them say, what does the customer get? Right? And I think that's the problem in general with where we are with AI. We talk about Llama 4 has 70 billion, data points in its model, or, Claude 4.0 Sonnet can do this and whatever. But we don't talk about, what does it matter? I'll just pick on somebody because they probably aren't going to listen to this. We run GitHub Copilot, we run Claude for coding. And one of the biggest issues we've had is code check-in. We've been working at it over a year now, is getting the amount of code check-in through acceptance, right? If you're Microsoft, you can spend $1 billion building a custom instance of Claude or whatever you want to run, OpenAI, that's built 100% on your code base. But when you're 8x8 with our 600 developers, you can't afford to build a custom LLM or a custom thought engine for our code base. So we started at literally 10% code acceptance a year ago, and we're at about 40, 50% code acceptance now. We've been training it a freaking year trying to get AI. That's the gap today. The gap today is not, hey, Claude can write code. Yes. Can Claude write code for us? No. Okay. And now what we as a company, what you guys do, et cetera, is figure out how to take these incredible tools and put them into production for a specific use case that actually solves a problem, that actually gets an ROIC for a customer, for one of our customers, because then that customer is willing to write us a check. And
Yep.
that's the gap that has to be closed today. It's not about, we like to talk about, I use car analogies, we like to talk about the size of the engine and the size of the wheels and the 0 to 60 speed, but we really don't like to talk that often about, like, it's great for getting you to work it back.
Yep. You're tapping into like a bigger AI debate right now. And, I think folks are, trying to prognosticate over the next few years. Are we going to have a bunch of small focused AI models? And you have, your model for doing your chores online. You have another model for your plants. You have another model for, writing content, another model for, different sales and marketing outreach. Are we going to see a bunch of specialized models? Or are we going to see one model to rule them all, and it can pivot from one thing to the other? But it is like it is I would almost say it's like a law of the universe that the broader you go, the less performant you could be in any specific area. Like a Swiss
Absolutely.
Army knife is not the best knife. It's not the best screwdriver. You like a Swiss Army knife because it does a little bit of everything. And if you have an area that you really care about it, and you're like, I'm going to be using this screwdriver for the next 12 hours. I have to go through the house and unscrew every single thing. You could not pay me to use a Swiss Army knife.
Right. No carpenter has a Swiss Army knife on their belt. They have a hammer, a saw, a tape measure, etc., because they need specialized tools for specialized results. The problem, and you are so spot on. Like, one of the things I get into arguments about with the Silicon Valley venture capital community is they're like, routing is going away, workflow is going away because you have an unlimited number of bots, and you're just going to take a case and you're just going to throw it at whatever generalized bot that exists, and it's going to solve all problems. And I'm like, look, I will be long retired and you still won't have that dream come true, because the world will require specialized bots. I mean, we see it all the time. We've added custom dictionary capabilities to LLMs, because one of the things that drives me nuts is when I use ChatGPT,
Yep.
I say CPaaS, CPaaS, Communications Platform as a Service. And every single time it transcribes SEA space PASS, right? That is just such the classic example of that broad solution. And we see it already. We've released a medical LLM and other LLMs because you need transcription capabilities around healthcare or whatever. The hottest topic in my 2 cents right now about AI is RAG, right? Which is all about trying to take that general purpose thingamajigger and actually get it far enough down for your use case to get a tangible result. And I just go back to the same thing I said a few minutes ago. If you have to be 97% accurate, otherwise you're going to lose the customer, there's no way that general purpose thingamajigger is going to be 97% accurate. No one has ever achieved that. You're going to need quadruple redundancy. You would need, an agent that checks with an agent, that checks with an agent, that checks with an agent, which is stupid. Just build your billing agent, your return agent, your schedule an appointment agent, whatever, and then building routing engine that analyzes the problem and gets to the specific agent that's an expert at solving that problem.
Yep. Yeah, I hear I think it's Elon Musk talk about this with his Falcon Starship, and how like when you start building from multiple things, you make design compromises. Um, and that was kind of one of the examples I think he gave with the Challenger is, you have basically a spaceship that's also trying to be an airplane, and
Right.
that makes it not particularly, effective at either. If you think about like almost like the mathematical limits of this, if you say, oh, I want to train my model on more and more stuff so it can do everything, then okay, clearly you need a bigger model, right? You need a bigger model. You need to basically embed this data into the model so it can do more. Well, then how is it going to get from point A to point B as quickly if point A and point B might be very far away, so to speak, in the model? So then you're going to trade latency. It's also you're going to have to do more computing power to run this bigger model. So you're
Which is
trading.
cost. Your cost is going to skyrocket. So you're going to have a simple case that suddenly is going to cost you $200 of NVIDIA compute time to solve a simple case because you've built it to solve the complex case. It makes no sense. In contact centers for 10 years now or more, the number one topic is skills-based routing, right? Get the right case to the right agent. All we're going to change in the future is get the right case to the right agent or agentic agent or AI agent, right? That's all that's going to happen. That's the next 10 or 15 years. Look, we have people out there today who run large contact centers that are voice only. They haven't even gone to the digital world. The idea that we're going to just somehow in 3 years eliminate all that stuff is just it's great Silicon Valley marketing, but as far as I'm concerned, Amazon still doesn't replace the Safeway that's down the street from me, right? And I like Amazon, but still doesn't replace the grocery store that's down the street from me.
So then where do you see, AI voice agents going?
I think they're amazing, but what's going to happen to me is I think they're going to start first and foremost with simple, straightforward use cases that can be put into production. So I'll give you some that we built for customers using your technology or others today in production. We have a large computer manufacturer, and when you call the help desk, the first thing it needs is your serial number. And so before, it used to be about a 4 to 5 minute process because the agent would ask, hey, what's your serial number of your PC? And the person would say, I don't know. How do I find it? And then they would have to explain it. And then the person would have to be like, okay, hold on a second. I can pull the battery out and all this time lost. Now you come in and it says, hey, what's your serial number? And if you need help, say so. And it's going to ask you to describe the computer. And that's going to tell you, okay, here's your instructions for, and then it's going to be like, okay, based on that, I'm routing you to an agent that is an expert in solving that thing. That is an awesome use case. Paid for itself 3 times over. There's going to be you're a financial services institution and someone calls because they need a balance. This is an easy one, right? Something like a third of all calls to financial services, like banks and credit unions, is what's my balance? And you think, well, that's pretty easy. We can authenticate the user. So we can do biometric or whatever the case. If we authenticate the user, pull their account balance. The part no one ever talks about is about half those use cases they hang up at that time.
Hmm.
Half those use cases are I called to get my balance because I want to buy a car or I'm busy buying a house or I want to make a large purchase. And it's a selling moment. It's a cross-selling moment. And so what the voice bot's going to do is it's going to say, okay, I've done the easy thing. I've given you my balance. Do you need help? Are you doing this for a reason? And they're going to be like, yeah, I'm buying a car. Let me transfer you to the car loan. We're going to give you a better car loan than you're going to get from the dealer. Let's go. This is a selling moment. And
Yep.
so we see a lot of capabilities around voice bots at the front end of the conversation. It's almost overlapping with enhanced IVRs to be that front end of the conversation to get the easy stuff done. Let's get your serial number. Let's get your appointment set. Let's get all those kinds of things. And then we'll transfer you to an agent, the specialist, for the more complex pieces. Absolute. And the bots pay for themselves overnight. We deployed for a bank, 130, 140 branch bank. And we deployed and the contact center person says, Sam, I should never tell you this, but the entire year of project was paid for in the first month and we haven't even tuned the bot yet. And I'm like, I know. Like that's the power. We're going
Wow.
to see tons of that getting into production over the next 2, 3, 4 years.
So let's talk about outcomes, because
Yeah.
there's this interesting, buzz about outcomes right now. I would say on one hand, you have folks who are, frustrated or disillusioned or pessimists saying, none of this AI is getting people any outcomes. It's just, tools running in circles. Then you have maybe move a step down the spectrum. A lot of companies, in the technology space who are offering AI are trying to really message that no, for real, we seriously do deliver outcomes. And then you can go on the way end of the spectrum, and there's companies like I think it's Manny Medita started Paid, and that's a company that is focused on getting you paid, like monetizing your AI bots based on the outcome you get. So basically, outcome-based pricing. It seems like there's a very rich web of conversations around AI and outcomes and what is it able to do, and like how are companies going to be thinking about delivering outcomes for their customer? Like what is your perspective on this?
Okay, I think, and there's a great book if your listeners ever get a chance called Digital Hesitation by TSIA that talks about this extensively also. But there's a graphic inside that book that to me that says it all. As technology companies, we have a tendency to walk in, and I'll use a real estate analogy. We have a tendency to walk in and say, here are bricks, concrete, boards, shingles, windows, etc. Or the other example I'm going to use is we drive the customer to the front door of Home Depot and go, there's your house. It's in there. Go figure it out. The customer, on the other hand, is like, I want a house. They're they when the customer and the prospect walks into the selling transaction, they are looking for an outcome. Now, historically, what we've done the last 10, 20 years in tech is we've done the play the game of we'll give you the pieces, you're responsible for the outcome. I think what's going to happen in the future is the companies, we, the tech companies, are going to be responsible for the outcome. So what's going to happen, and I'm a big believer of this at 8x8, is we no longer sell UC or CC or intelligent customer assistant or a bot or PCI compliance. We sell fast pay. We sell remote fix. We'll take remote fix. Remote fix is a combination of engage plus UC plus contact center plus video elevation plus SMS messaging, all integrated in a can, ready to go to be configured for your exact use case. So I think the way companies are going to differentiate in this world is by packaging the outcome, is not by packaging the technology, which is historically what we've done. And I think it's because in the world that you and I live in, UC, CC, CPaaS, et cetera, we are going to stop selling to the IT department where we've historically sold to, and we're going to go back to selling to the line of business. All right, time for Sam's rant. Sam's rant is that voice isn't new. It's not going to follow Jeffrey Moore's, technology adoption curve, et cetera. Alexander Graham Bell patented voice in 1875. It's at 150th anniversary. And so it's not about a new technology that requires that type of stuff. It's voice is known. SMS messaging is known. These technologies are known. What isn't there is, hey, put this together and be an integrator, be a platform for me and sell me that outcome. And this is why we're a huge believer in our technology partner ecosystem. Thank you to you guys. And we're a huge believer in being a platform, because what we want to sell a lot more in the future is actually the outcome. Now, is that going to lead to outcome-based pricing and whatever? I don't know. I think it's going to lead to a lot of consumption-based pricing. But what's going to happen is that's actually how tech companies are going to differentiate. They're not going to differentiate by the size of their engine or the strength of their bricks or the thickness of their shingles. They're going to differentiate by, I built you the house that you wanted. I built you the house that you wanted. I built you the house that you wanted for exactly your use case. That's going to be the power.
Sam, I think that's brilliant. Like, the technology is there today to do amazing things. We don't need to wait for technology to get better until AI is able to accomplish useful stuff. What we need to develop are the products, the stitching together of useful technologies and interfaces and use cases and actual practical realities of a user sitting there engaging with your product and ultimately getting the thing that they had wished or thought of in their mind, not the thing that you promised in the sales process, but really what was in their mind, what they really truly wanted. And I think we're going to get there. And I think that that's where a lot of this differentiation is going to be created. I completely agree with you on that.
And you guys, look, you guys are amazing at this, but you and I, we're experts at the technology. We're experts at the bricks and the lumbers and whatever it may be. That's what we're good at. The customer isn't. Why do we give them the complexity? So I think the way the world's going to change over the next 5 years is vendor complexity, customer simplicity. And I think the way that the world has been the last 20 years is customer complexity, vendor simplicity. I sell UC. It's really easy. I sell it to everybody. You figure out how to use it for your use case. The way the world's going to change is, and this is my big epiphany as a CEO the last few years, is that customers will pay you for integration. They will pay you for putting the products together, and they don't care if it's Balto and 8x8. They don't care if it's Balto 8x8 plus PCI Pal plus in-house technology. They don't care. What they want is, hey, I bought this box. I dropped this box into my IT stack, and I got an outcome I was expecting. You're a hero. You sold me a bunch of bricks. I can't figure out how to build this thing. It's not working as expected. You're not going to get a renewal.
Yeah. Or if they have to go hire their own in-house brick builder or in-house bricklayer to take your bricks and then layer them together. And then they have to hire their own in-house architect to make sure that the design is right. And then their own in-house maintenance person to walk around the foundation every day and make sure that none of the bricks fell out.
Absolutely. And it's funny. So I'm going to tell a story, and if Tony Bates is listening, probably yell at me. We recently, a couple months ago, won a head-to-head deal with Genesis, who's a bigger company than us. And it turns out that on the fund, we were all down selected. We won the deal against Genesis. It turns out we were actually on a per seat basis, slightly more expensive than Genesis. So I called the CIO and I said, I'm totally confused, right? Like, Genesis is an amazing company. You could have bought it. It was actually cheaper. And he's like, yeah, technically you're correct. However, Genesis plus an Accenture SI contract was not cheaper than just buying the package from you. The reason you guys won is I don't have to buy an SI contract. You've already done the work for me. And I was like, I almost cried because I'm like, that's my entire vision on where technology is going. Technology, because of venture capital, because of everything else, we've got tons of startups, we've got tons of capability. The companies that are going to differentiate themselves over time is the ones that can actually get that technology in production solving problems, because that's where revenue and profits get produced.
Sam, where do you see AI going broadly over the next 3 years?
I think it's going to move out of the lab and into production. I think we're going to see very large wars among the hyperscalers about wanting to be the platform of AI. So you have everybody from Workday saying, we used to be employee management. Now we're employee plus agent management. You have ServiceNow saying, we're going to be the platform. You have Salesforce saying you're going to be like AWS, Azure, Google, etc. You're going to see a massive war about wanting to be a single platform for all AI. I'm not sure, I don't know, we run Kubernetes clusters. So in any given moment, I'm doing business with 3 or 4 different public cloud companies. I don't think that dream will ever come true. I think it'll be a multi-cloud environment, if you will. But it's all going to be about out of the lab and into production and defining your platforms that you're building those agents on, you're building those outcomes on to drive it, number one. And number two, when the AI fails, what's the human fallback? What's the human fallback? There's this great story about an airline that eliminated all voice phone calls. It's going 100% digital and it allows for automation, et cetera. And they're recently have announced that they're going back to voice because, well, their customers hated it, right? I don't think you're going to see a situation with 100% AI anytime in the next 3 to 5 years. You're going to see it continue to chip in around the edges, and you're going to see more capabilities, et cetera, come in, but there's still going to need to be that fallback over the next 5 years. And so there's going to be a tremendous business process redevelopment in every corporation about where AI is coming in and solving the problems and where human beings are playing in the loop.
I love that. Sam, this was an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for joining me.
First, let me say thank you for having me. Second, thank you for creating a great company that's fun to partner with. And number three is thank you for doing amazing podcasts. I love listening to them.